Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome back to Final Trade. So this is it, the press release from WOTC yesterday, April 19th, 2022, talking about the price increases that are coming, 11% average. And the way it's going to affect things is new Capenna is not affected except for the commander decks that already went up in price. I think I said the other day that they were $28 each at wholesale and 4 to a case for those commander decks. Starting with Dominaria United, the standard sets are going to see increases in the cost of their draft set, collector boxes, as well as bundles. Jumpstart 2 is going to see an increase in costs, and apparently reprints of existing sets will see an increase in price. I think that's what that last sentence means about backlist products. Let me know if I have that wrong. But higher margin products like Masters, Modern Horizons, Secret Lair, Challenger decks, and Universes Beyond will not be getting price increases at this time. So the interesting thing to me about this press release is it does not seem like it's full of any deceptive corporate speak. It really seems like what they have put across in the press release is nothing but the facts, ma'am, and that they're not trying to pull the wool over your eyes. And in fact, their first two paragraphs about the reasoning, the increase in costs of cardboard, of labor, of shipping, especially since fuel and energy prices are through the roof. Those are all very rational reasons that they would need to be raising the price. And it sucks, but, realize it's not the end of the world, right? Prognostications of the end of the world are often overblown. I was growing up in the 1980s and 90s, and, we were told all the time that it was the end of the world. There were crazes all through that time period of, it's going to be the rapture and the end of days. Didn't pan out. I remember in second grade, my school teacher told us that all of us were going to suffocate to death because the rainforest was being destroyed and we were going to run out of oxygen and all of humanity would suffocate to death. So, when people predict the end of the world, you can usually discount what they're saying because the world hasn't ended yet, basically. So, increasing the price of Magic products is not going to be the end of the world. 11%, it sucks. But, we hit times of high inflation in the late 1970s. And of course, in the early 1980s and even through to the mid and late 1980s, we had a period of unprecedented economic prosperity in the US. Well, not unprecedented. I mean, the 1950s had better economic prosperity, but, unprecedented since that time. So it's not that this is the end of things and we all might as well just throw in the towel and give up now. So we've been here before. Things will improve. And really high inflation, bad economic data, it's part of the business and economic cycle, right? So governments want to encourage growth. Now, whether or not they're actually any good at that is another debate, but they would like to encourage growth. So they make accommodative economic policies. Then businesses find it's easier to raise money, easier to get things accomplished, and maybe taxes get lowered so businesses get to keep more of the money they make. And ultimately, a lot of new businesses get created, new activity happens. But then in the long run, a bunch of businesses that basically are marginal, that wouldn't exist otherwise if not for the easy flow of money, they get built up also. And those become dangerous businesses. Eventually, some of them start to fail. The economy starts to contract. And the government says, maybe we need to kind of pull back, let off the gas a little bit, and ease up so that things don't get too overheated. And so the government will rein in their financial policy and the economy will contract. So it's just a natural business cycle. Again, the inflation sucks. Any of us who work for a paycheck denominated in dollars, it sucks for us, all of us. So I want to talk a little bit about how businesses raise prices because we look at this and we'll say, well, why is it 11% all at once? And when businesses are getting into a situation where their costs are rising, at first, what they will almost always try to do is eat that extra cost themselves. They'll let it cut into their profit margins, and they will simply try to contain it on their own for as long as they can. The reason is customers do not like price increases. I mean, you probably don't like that Magic cards are going to go up on average 11%. So they will try to contain it as long as they can until they have as good of a feel as they can get for how bad it's going to be in the end. And then all at once, they will raise prices and they will overshoot how bad they think it's going to be. So when WOTC says we are going to raise prices by 11% overall, they probably don't think that's entirely necessary, but they're overshooting a little bit just to be safe so that they don't have to have another immediate price increase in 6 or 9 or 12 months from now. So who loses on this? Obviously, players and collectors are the first to lose. If you buy sealed product or even just singles, they'll get more expensive too. But if you buy sealed product to open, to play with, to enjoy the cards, you're going to lose on this. You're going to have to buy less, or you're going to have to spend more money. And that stinks. Card stores lose because to some extent there will be players who quit the game over the increased price. There will always be players who are on the fence financially, and every tiny increase in price will push a few of those players over the fence. They will leave. Card stores will suffer for that also because they lose customers. It's not so obvious to me that distributors lose on this because they're essentially performing a fast food transaction with this kind of product. They simply move it. I guess if WOTC raises prices 11%, they raise their prices to their customers by 11%, and it passes through. They may not lose badly. I'm not really clear about that. Who wins on this? I will contend that investors win. You have to understand that there's a difference between compound annual growth rate and your basis cost, and the more important of the two is the compound annual growth rate. And I do not think this affects the compound annual growth rate of any of these products. And so if you have $200 a month to spend towards putting sealed product back in your closet, well, maybe now instead of buying 2.5 boxes on average per month, you buy 2.25 boxes on average. But that $200 that you spend every month, it's still going to grow at the same 8, 10, 12, 15% per year that you expect a diversified portfolio of sealed products to grow. So that's really not going to change anything for investors. The second thing for investors that I think is beneficial is that this will cause some reduced uptake in the sets. And so, again, if some players quit, if players buy less product, then less product will get printed in this short term, in this period while we adjust to these prices until the economic cycle turns upwards, wages start increasing, people start having more discretionary income again, and they start buying more Magic cards. So this will probably create a period of, 6, 12, 18 months where the total amount of sealed product put back in people's closets and the total amount of singles busted open and put into circulation is lower than it has been during the previous 24 months. And so long term, that creates an opportunity for investors that I think is beneficial. Who else wins? Definitely big winners off of this is smaller upcoming games, specifically Flesh and Blood and MetaZoo. And, both of those games are already expensive on a per card basis because those companies do not enjoy the kind of quantities of scale with the printers that WOTC and Pokemon enjoy. And so as those games continue to grow, their player bases grow, more of their product gets sold, they can up their purchases from the printers, realize better economies of scale and better margins, but manage to either hold their prices constant or not raise them as much as WOTC is, while still increasing their margins and covering their costs of goods sold. And so they're in a really beneficial spot where if they can manage to continue to grow through this, they will not be increasing their price as much as WOTC has to. And so it's a big opportunity for those games to just steal players away. Players who say, man, I'm not going to put up with an 11% increase in Magic prices when maybe Flesh and Blood will only increase prices 5% this year. So their prices probably will rise though, but just not as much as WOTC's. So going forward, what can you do? As always, buy singles. If you're a player, do not open sealed product. It's just throwing money down the drain. So just buy the specific singles that you want. You will spend a lot less money and you will get more of what you actually desire to play with. If you're a collector, well, it's an expensive hobby already, and it's going to get more expensive or you're going to get less of it. It's hard to figure a way around that. Something I do a lot just because of time constraints in my life. I buy a lot of pre-constructed things to play with. Pokemon pre-constructed theme decks, Flesh and Blood Blitz decks, and I enjoy those because I let someone else do the deck design, and I just get to play with typically a reasonably balanced product. So let me know what you think about this. Like I said, it stinks for players, it stinks for collectors, for investors. I think it's neutral and probably good for Flesh and Blood and MetaZoo. I think it's potentially great if they can navigate it correctly. And, this is just the unfortunate reality of how businesses run. Businesses are not charity, they exist to make money. I don't know why it's such a detested idea that a business should make a profit. That's why people go into business. That's why I started Final Trade. One day I'd like to make money off of it. So, that's the reality. WOTC is a business that has shareholders and owners who expect the company to make money and expect it to deliver a certain return on invested capital. And like I said in a video recently, it is not good enough to simply make 1 penny per transaction. So let me know what you think. Give me your feedback, your comments. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and join me on Final Trade. Thanks a lot.